viewers, Super GT here. Welcome back to Suzuka. So I sent in my dancing clips and I can't believe it, but Gran Turismo put me on the official Nations Cup introduction. Hope you enjoyed it. So here we go then. 9 laps around Suzuka. Now it's in Group 3, free choice of car, but pretty much everyone, apart from a few, have gone for the Porsche 911, as have I. Started in 10th after a average qualifying, and well, it obviously is average because I'm directly in the middle of the pack. So 9 laps, pretty high tyre wear, fuel is not a problem. There are a couple of different angles you'll see throughout the video, so not just my car but a couple of other people too. And oh man, this race, it went down to the wire, the very last millimetre, and there was action throughout. One of my better races in quite a long time, not necessarily in terms of how the result goes, but just in terms of just how fun it was throughout. Hopefully that doesn't spoil it too much. Well, no, it doesn't really, does it? So starting 10th, immediately the Spaniard ahead with a 0.5 penalty. So the first lap normally in these races, you're trying to just gauge your way into the race, and normally because of the rolling start you've got a fairly split pack, although immediately you see I've caught up the guy ahead. He's going to get that penalty, or he's already got the penalty. He's going to have to serve that in just a moment as we come through Spoon Curve in just a moment. Here we go, and the penalty line is just on the way to 130R after this corner. So the group ahead, group of 3, so they're already going to be fighting. The leader is in a Nissan GTR. So quite interestingly, most people went for the 911. I think it's one of those things where pretty much everyone just chooses the car that is doing well on the leaderboard, and the car that everyone is using. And I'll be honest, I've fallen into that trap here by going for it. And normally, I mean, the 911 is a car I'm very familiar with. I know how to drive this car. Supposedly know how to drive this car. So that is lap number 1, moving up 1 position. And again, just looking at that group ahead, so they are fighting very, very hard indeed. As we go into turn 1, looks like the Austrian there up into 6th place. Now the interesting thing here is, as we briefly touched on, is the tyres, because I am on the medium, but you can definitely do a no-stop race. The fuel is not a problem, so you don't have to come in for fuel. You can come in, of course, for new tyres, but at the same time you can also just stay out. So this kind of split the strategy for a lot of people. Half the people, or some of the people, are on the harder tyre, and some people on the medium. So there will be a difference in the speed of the cars throughout the race. So of course the hard tyre running people will be a bit slower at the beginning of the race, but then, as I almost lose control of the car there, right up behind the Hungarian, the hard tyre drivers will come on strong at the end of the race when they have more life in the tyres. So there is this shifting dynamic throughout the race to watch out for. At the moment it's kind of still settling in quite nicely, in 9th position, in a decent spot. And it's just going to be one of those ones where you kind of just have to churn out the laps, be consistent, and just wait for it to come back to you towards the end, and just hope that you don't get a penalty, because of course that could really harm your chances of anything good. I've seen some pretty poor examples of penalties. In fact, one guy, I think it was this very race, going into this actual corner right here, the leader span on the curb and it was spinning off and hit the guy in second. It was no one's fault, it was just a mistake. It was just a mistake, and then the guy who went past got a 5-second penalty. So you just got to hope that something like that doesn't happen, because that has been happening a little bit too much recently. People hitting someone on the way off of the track, not maliciously, but they're making a mistake, they spin off, hit someone on the way off, and then that person who they hit gets a 5-second penalty because the game thinks that they hit them off. Obviously they didn't. So there is this weird situation. So at this point here, it's a 5-way fight for 6th position, but it is quite tricky. It can be very tricky, as you can see as we pan out, 6-car fight for 6th place. It can be tricky in the same car to overtake sometimes. Sometimes you want a different car so that you can use your strength over the other car against it. So normally if you have higher straight line speed, just wait for the straight and go past them. But in this case here, we're all in the same car. I think the main weakness, of course, would be the harder tyre. Although at this point it's hard to tell who is on the harder tyre. I'd imagine the Portuguese guy is, possibly the Austrian, as we have caught up with them quite quickly. I know it is only the third lap, but I think it's possible that they're on the hard tyre. Although we'll have to wait and see at the end maybe, or check out the replay and have a look and see what was going on. Normally I like to do that after a race. I will go back to the replay, just have a look at who was on what tyre and who was on what tyre where at the end of the race, just to see the real, just to get a real indication of what exactly was going on. The Austrian going defensive. There's actually a bunching up of the group ahead as well. So even though we are kind of fighting here, we are actually catching up with the guys ahead. The Portuguese guy there not getting a good exit out of the final chicane, and it just shows you one tiny mistake is going to cost him one, possibly two positions if I get through here. I am on the inside, but I'm not getting the slipstream of the car ahead. As we head into turn 1, I've just hemmed him into the outside and he can't really do anything. So I've moved up into 8th. And you see how close it is up ahead. The leader and second have got a decent margin at the moment. So interestingly, most people using the 911, but the leader in the Nissan GTR going second in the Peugeot of all cars. That's a very interesting choice. So he seems to be going very quickly at the moment, the Peugeot user, but we'll see how that pans out later on, because maybe the tyre wear is a big factor here. Well, it will definitely be a big factor. I'm not sure how good the Peugeot is on tyres, but we will see as we then head up towards the chicane on lap number 4. Got a decent margin behind, so I do think that Portuguese guy then, as he has slowly slipped down the order, it's not clear, he might have just been making mistakes, but it seems like he's got a slight disadvantage, possibly because of being on the tyre. So at this point here, that was a mistake into the hairpin. I've just dropped out of slipstream range, which is quite crucial. Coming out of the hairpin, you've got pretty much 3 long straights after it, separated by a few corners. So you've got that straight there as you come around to Spoon, then this one out of Spoon into 130R, and then you've got the main straight. So you really do have to be close as possible coming out of that hairpin, just to make sure you're in the toe. So here, because I'm not in the toe, I'm losing a couple of temps for the next couple of straights, which is quite frustrating. And coming into here, I just have a brain fart and just turn in way too early, over the curb, onto the grass. I'm going to try to defend the position, not quite. He goes around the outside, I give the space, and then there's a 0.5 second penalty, I think for cutting, or possibly for running wide on the exit, probably for cutting. So that is frustrating. 2 guys behind going to the pit lane, so they going for the 1 stop, but I'm staying out, as are pretty much everyone, as is pretty much everyone in front. So still a close battle, a 4-way fight here for 6th place still, and just scanning ahead, still a close fight in front as well. You see I made another mistake there as we pan through this lap. So this was a lap of really just a couple of mistakes. The race was appearing to creep away from me, as the tyres at this point, normally it's around about lap 4 or 5 of a stint where the tyres just begin to go off and you have to start driving a little bit differently, and this is where I'm going to have to serve my penalty. At this point here, okay, it wasn't a total disaster, but you see the gap opening up, 2 seconds behind now, and about 4 seconds ahead of the person behind, who may well be on the harder tyre and therefore would be coming into the race later on. Interestingly as well, the leader going into the pits, 55% fuel, so the fuel isn't the problem. He's coming in for fresh tyres, so I'd imagine that Nissan GTR that he's driving might not be as good on tyres, and I think that's probably why everyone chose the 911, because it might be the best on its tyres. I don't really know, but that's probably the most logical thing. As we come down the straight, cross for the start of lap 6, this is the leader then. Well, he's obviously not the leader now, but he was before he came in for his pit stop. Let's have a look at him then. So he's come out on the medium, so 2 stints on medium tyre. So we can actually just see how much he can gain on me here. So I've got pretty worn mediums by this point. You know, they're on the 6th lap, and the leader's just the former leader, should I say, has just come out on fresh tyres. You see how much he's gained already. The GTR, the big boy that it is, providing so much downforce with that chunky wing, and he's gaining very, very quickly indeed. You see in this first half of the lap he's just pulled in probably his second. So it just shows you how much you really do lose out by having sub-optimal tyres. But then again, of course, he lost out all the time by being in the pit lane. He will have to try to catch all of this up. So there was an incident at the hairpin there. I'm just going to drive a little bit wide just to let him go through. I don't even want to fight him because he is just going to come through at some point. And then I can just tuck into his slipstream. Pretty sure the GTR is very good in a straight line, so we just tuck into the slipstream, and hopefully this guy can tow me back onto the back of that group. You see just how much I've lost in the last couple of laps. So this phase of the race here, the middle of the race, really wasn't all that great for me. A penalty, a couple of mistakes, as I just didn't really get to grips, excuse the pun, with the lack of grip on the tyres. But as you can see, as always happens, when people are in a very close-knit group, they are going to be fighting and they're going to be losing time, and that's exactly what is happening here. So with the benefit of the little bit of the tow from the GTR, I'm going to get back onto this group as the Portuguese guy, once again with a mistake coming out of the final corner, and I'm going to take that position quite happily. The GTR here is just coming through quite easily. He's like a knife through butter, just slicing through everyone quite easily. He's got so much more grip than us, so it's quite an easy job for him. There's a contact with the Peugeot. The Peugeot seems to be off, completely losing it now, as the tyres begin to just really fade away quite horrifically. You see just how close this battle is for, I don't even know what it is, a 5th position now. As the Peugeot is really on the back foot, the Nissan GTR has just got through it. He's just galloped away. He's just flying off into the distance to try to catch up with the top 3. Around the outside of the Peugeot, is it going to work there? Not quite. I don't want to get sucked off there. Very easy just to dip 2 wheels on the grass and you are gone basically into the shadow realm. Into Degner 1. Not really good overtaking opportunities here, so just really settle into the position, follow them through, maybe look for something into the hairpin, but it's not quite going to happen here. And I think it was the Peugeot who span off at the hairpin on the previous lap. Looking around the outside, that's why he lost so much time, because he wasn't second. A bit of contact there with the Portuguese driver, but we regain our positions and our composure. Can I go for a move around into Spoon, looking for the line as we curve around to the right hand side into the left hander of Spoon? The space is there, but I'm not going to go for it, not just yet. Would have been a very brave move, and you're risking it a lot, especially on the worn tyres. So through Spoon onto the back straight into that slipstream. I don't think he's getting the slipstream of the car ahead, so this is my chance to pounce as he doesn't cover the inside. I'm up the inside into the left hand side as we go into 130R. I'm definitely going to have to lift off a little bit earlier than normal, just to make sure I don't go wide on the exit. Do brush the curb. He's back on my left hand side as we come into the final chicane. He's trying to fight this one on the outside. I'm going to fight him off and get up into 7th position. So the race was going away from me, but these last couple of laps it's come back slightly as these guys begin to fight, and it just shows you how much time you begin to lose when you start fighting each other. As now the leader, the former leader, is about to be the leader once again. You can see he's just on the attack against Tommy Concrete. So this guy in the GTR with the one-stop strategy, it seems to be really working for him. The risk is, of course, you have to fight through the traffic, and there's always a chance of a penalty, an accident, someone sending you off into the shadow realm. But he seems to have just really got through us very quickly. That GTR really working for him. A bit of contact here, a tiny bit of contact through that right-hander. It's going to put me narrow into the left-hander of Dunlop, and the Portuguese guy there coming back through. So he, on the harder tyres, I would have thought, as we come towards the later phase of the race, he's going to have so much more grip now. So the GTR making short work of the 911, so he's going to retake the lead and presumably scupper off into the distance, never to be seen again. So well done to him. So a bit further back. So it's actually not too far from the leader. It's actually quite a close fight overall, given that we've been racing for about 15 or so minutes. It's actually not too spread out by most standards, although I suppose we are all using pretty much the same car, most of us anyway. As we come up then into Spoon for the 8th time, only one more lap after this, can we possibly get another position? We do have Egathon on our tail now, and I'm presuming that I'm surrounded now by hard tyre drivers. So the Portuguese guy coming back into the race, and you see I just can't keep up with this point in the race. Medium tyre just really shot, and that harder tyre, of course, a bit more durable. He's got a lot more life in his tyres at this point of the race, so he can actually do something. He's looking to go past the Hungarian into the chicane, but waits for now, perhaps tuck into the slipstream and go for a move into turn 1 instead. I'm just desperately trying to keep the traction down without spinning the car, but it's really difficult at this point of the race. You can see the full extent of the top 10 there in that one shot. I think you could have just seen the leader as he just flashed through the shot at the beginning of that shot. So with 1 lap left to go, or less than 1 lap left to go, how is this one going to pan out? You never know, because anything can happen as the tyre life really begins to fade away. So the Portuguese guy has just quite easily overcome the Hungarian driver, and it's already looking for that 5th place. And that's a really good example of just how much life the hard tyre has compared to the medium at this point of the race, right at the end. So he was a couple of attempts off at the beginning, but now easily a couple of attempts or more better. So this is the battle for 2nd, very close fight once again. So as we come up into the chicane, sorry, the hairpin, the Austrian's going to go for it and get it all out of control, all out of shape, onto the gravel on the outside. I'm going to take advantage of that, and most of us are. Up into 7th, and unfortunately there's an example of, well, we were talking about the penalties earlier, and you can see up ahead in the group as the Austrian recovers, the Frenchman in now 4th receiving a penalty for that, because, well, it clearly wasn't his fault. But unfortunately that's the way it just seems to be going a lot recently. So I am going to gain another position there as we cross the penalty line here. So he's going to slow down, take his penalty. Really unfortunate for him, because he was in a good position there. Top 4 pretty much guaranteed until that accident. And then, well, he loses it out right on the last lap. Up into 6th place. Is there potential for 5th as we come up into the hairpin? I'm just going to cover off the inside. Egerthon looks for the move, not quite there. As we come through the chicane, it's really closing up on this last lap. As we come through the final corner, the Hungarian with a mistake. I'm going to go to the inside. It's going to be a dash to the line, 1v1. And I finished in 6th. I briefly went into 5th for a split second. It was 2,000ths of a second between us on the line. It was ridiculously close. One of my closest ever finishes. I have had a 0.001. But that was in fact, that was a 0.001. Look at it. Yeah, 1,000th of a second separated us on the line. And oh my god, how close was that? I thought the race was going away from me, but it came back to me at the end. And you see the top left of the screen, look. 6th place, went up to 5th, and then went back to 6th when we crossed the line. So I don't know what happened there. I was so interested in this, so I went back to the replay, had a look. And I'm pretty sure crossed the line first, or at least touched the line first. Pretty triggered right now, but you know what? It was such a good race. It was such an awesome race throughout that it doesn't even matter really anyway. And well, my fate of 6th place has been confirmed and sealed once again. I can't escape it, can I? But there we go. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.